Welcome to the Ranch Systems YouTube channel. I'm Jakob Christford, and today I'm going to talk about automating your irrigation system. And the most important point in that conversation is really that how you're going to do it and what technologies you tend to need is really a function of where you're starting from. So different types of operation, different types of existing valves and where they're located is really what's going to determine the kind of technology, wireless technology typically, that you're going to need. So I want to really talk about how to think about that, and it's not specific to ranch systems technology, it's really generically applicable. So let's start with the simplest case. The simplest case we see on this page is if you already have an existing manual timer, something that connects to all your valves with wires, typically 24 volt AC, and runs your irrigation, but you want to bring it all into the cloud to get more automation, be able to schedule it remotely and all of those benefits. So in that case, you typically use a drop-in controller. That's basically a controller that functions essentially the same way as the traditional manual controller, but it just brings it all to the cloud. And you can literally, in a couple of hours, replace the one you see on the wall there and drop in the one from for example, our IM400 controller, drop it in and be up and running in a few hours. That's the simplest case. The second case is a little bit more complicated. You have valves there, but they are not currently automated, but they are all in one place. And that makes it a lot easier, because now you can add solenoids, which are these little automation coils that you put on each valve. You can wire them to a central point. It could be on that pump house here. You put the IM400, in our case here, run the wires there, and you could be up and running very quickly. So solenoids, I just take a little sidebar to talk about the two types of solenoids. We have the 24 volt AC, which requires you to have main power where your controller is, and then we have the 9 to 12 volt DC latching, which is compatible with battery operated equipment, typically powered by solar. You can recognize the AC solenoids with the fact that they have the same colored wire coming out of them, black or red, and the DC latching solenoids have black and red coming out of them. Remember that they are specific, though, to each valve manufacturer, so you need to get the solenoids that fit your valve. We don't supply those as ranch systems. They need to come from where you got your valve. So this third case is, and that's where we go from 24 volt AC valves, which was what we talked about so far, to the DC latching valves. That's when you have valves that are spread out in the terrain in your fields, and they need to be wirelessly tied together to a controller. And in this case, we have, in our case, a small wireless product called IS-10 that uses long-range Bluetooth, goes up to 1,000 feet, back to a central point where you typically have something like the IM400 controller I showed that concentrates it all, and it essentially becomes a wire replacement. Now, if you don't have them within the convenient 1,000 feet, they spread even more out. Then we get into what we call large and complex system, and that's where we throw a new tool at it, which is our 900 megahertz mesh networking system. Those are bigger nodes with bigger solar panels and more powerful radios. They go up to 2 miles line of sight, and they can multi-hop from one to another, so they can really cover hundreds of acres easily. That technology, you also have up to 8 DC latching valves per unit, but I want to mention that you could also have a situation where you have cellular, and if you had cellular connectivity all over your location, then you could go with an IS-130 product, which is a cellular direct product, and have 2 DC latching valves or more with expansion units at each location, and just go direct cellular. So these two cases are sort of the same, but it really depends on how good is your cellular connectivity across your property. The seventh case I want to talk about here is the two-wire system. If you have the opportunity to dig down wires, you don't necessarily need to run a star network where wires go from a central place to every single valve. There are two-wire systems like HIT products that we work with that will do a two-wire approach running around the field, and you just have to have a little adapter at each valve, and you just need one controller from us placed next to the HIT controller to bring it all to the cloud, and then you can automate the whole thing that way. It's a great solution if you're doing a new development. And the final case I want to talk about is a hybrid scenario. That's a case where you are saying, oh, actually I have pockets of my property where I can use IS-10. I have pockets where I have good cell signal. I'm just going to put IS-130s. And then there are just areas I need to cover with mesh networking. The great thing is you can do that, you can mix and match, and it all becomes invisible at the software level where you're going to schedule your irrigations and turn valves on and off. It really doesn't matter from that application perspective how they were networked in the field. More often than not, for a large property, we see a hybrid scenario being the way to go for the most cost-efficient solution. The final thing I want to talk about is just that don't forget there are other sensors that you typically want, not just the valves. You typically want flow meters, pressure transducers are good to test how much water am I delivering. Am I delivering it at all? Is there enough pressure? All of these things can be added to the same radio system, so you don't need extra nodes or extra controllers for that. They just are added to the same controllers. You may also have a big pump, of course, that can be controlled and monitored. Water tanks, reservoirs, wells, all are typically monitored by this technology as well at the same time. So they tend to be part of the whole equation as well. So thanks for listening. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.